What's good, good people, and welcome to episode 34 of It's Just Not Adding Up. I'm talking too much, I'm out of here. I'm OBO, and over the years I've noticed gay is a scary word for a lot of people, which is wild because it's just gay. But don't worry, I've decided to be your gay coach. Everyone's talking about equality and love, but I don't know, it's just not adding up.
Lord have mercy, I'm about to bust.
I feel like every time we talk about sex between two men, it's either about HIV prevention or how to reduce like the pain of the person who's bottoming, right? But like, when do we talk about how to have an enjoyable experience? That's what this video is gonna be about.
To the park, get big man truck right in this little garage.
So I think there's a little piece of us that has taken on the heteronormative energy that somebody has to be the lesser of the two parties during sex, right? This idea that women hold the brunt of social stigmas as it relates to how, where, when, how quickly, all these factors that are attached to sex. So likewise for gay men, someone has to take on the social stigma of sex, right? The brunt of sex, the social shame, all the things attached to sex.
I don't like that.
I want this video to serve as our permission to stop that.
I like that.
Like, nobody has to take on anything during sex, right? Sex, in my opinion, can be about pleasure, can be about intimacy, can be about love. All that's the underlying should be value, right? There's a value that both parties bring to the sexual experience. No matter what position you're playing, no matter what we're doing, there's a value set that's involved. So within sex, let's talk about what consent is. I think it gets a little bit muddy when it comes to two men, right? Often we conflate this idea of consent and convincing or coercion, right? Like, you said you only wanted to do this. I'm coming to the pot wanting to do a little bit more. So I'm going to convince you to do more. And you're going to agree if I can do this thing to get you to agree, right? If I'm good enough at this preliminary activity, I can get you to do this. If I'm good enough here, if I talk this talk, or if I do this thing, I can get you to do this thing, right? And I think oftentimes it's not the best platform for sex, right? Like, you want sex to be something that people do willfully, not this thing that I do because, okay, or this thing that person does because, sure, or you're good at this, or I don't want to lose you, or you're already here, or, you know, all these different factors that sometimes lead to sex, right? Sex should be an encounter that is between two people who are consenting and willfully consenting.
Yes, baby.
Not, okay, or I don't want you to get mad at me, or I don't want you, none of those things should exist during a sexual experience. So after you have consented, right, what does communication look like sexually? Now I will say, I think this varies contingent upon what kind of sex you guys are going to be having, right? Like, is this in a relationship? Is this a casual situation where you guys are just gonna have simply sex and move on? Is this a friends with benefits? All those factors I think play a part. But all in all, I think being highly communicative always helps during sex. Also with communication though, I think it can be ever changing, much like consent, right? Like, I wanted to do that evening, but this evening I may want to do this. This evening I may want to do that, right? I think sometimes we think we're locked into how we came to a sexual experience, right? Like, I told you I was A, which is why, again, I don't believe in identifying as a position. I think I did a video on bottom shaming that I may have to redo. But as I get older, I agree less and less with the idea of proclaiming a position. I understand what it means to then come to an experience wanting a specific experience, but I think proclaiming to be a thing, identifying as a thing, sometimes can pigeonhole you in there, and sometimes it's hard to move. Also, the tricky thing about identifying with sexual positions is they don't always sum up how you want to have the sexual experience, right? Like, calling yourself a top or a bottom, I think has this social understanding, but can be very different for you. You could, and now we get into these little micro terms where it's like, I'm an oral top, or I'm a dominant bottom, or I'm a this, whatever this thing's called, opposed to just saying what you want from this specific sexual encounter.
I like that.
This goes back to a little piece of shame, right, as it relates to communicating things. If we eliminate shame, I think people can communicate what they want from the sexual experience a little more freely. There is some bit of judgment attached to what people want or what people do when, right? Like the idea of someone doing this soon, right? This person did this on the first hour. This person did this on the second, or this person was talking about this, or wants to do this, or likes this, or enjoys that, or has done this. And then here you go, not wanting to be judged. You may come to the pot not really being able to be your full sexual self, which, what's the point?
I don't like that.
Also, let's go back. Communicating whether or not you actually want to have sex now. Right? Like, sometimes we think because we're sexual beings and because we want to have sex and we're sexually charged in this moment that we have to have sex. That's not the case either. If you're somebody who is either practicing abstinence, celibacy, or just doesn't want to have sex yet, That is very well okay. And also, to my point I just made, like, you don't have to be celibate or abstinent to not be having sex. But you have to call it a thing. I don't want to have sex with you yet. And being communicative about that, or communicating specifically what you want to do. I'm comfortable with kissing. I'm not comfortable with anything oral. I'm not comfortable with actual sex right now. I'm not comfortable with full-on intercourse, or what have you. But being able to communicate the things that you want from the intimate spaces that you find yourself in is very important to having a pleasurable experience with another person. Can we talk a little bit about being kind during sex? Because slip-ups on both parts happen, right? The idea that things can get a little muddy, if you catch my drift.
Hey. How y'all doing?
Let's not act like we don't know where we are. So I would recommend like not being weird about it. On the other end, there are a lot of factors that can come into play when a person is flaccid. Can't get that thing to pop up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In 2 miles, take the exit to merge onto State Road.
They can be excited about the sexual experience. They can be nervous. A lot of different factors go into somebody not being able to get it up quickly. Now, to the over 25 club, I do think there are certain things you should just have in your home. I think that you should have condoms in your home. I just think that's the thing you should have. I think you should have lube. I think you should also have multiple kinds of lube. Everybody's like the same kind of lube. Some people like water-based, some people like gel-based, silicone-based. I guess that should happen during the communication part, but if it doesn't, make sure you have them. You know what I mean? No matter what side of the spectrum you're on that night or whatever, like I think you should have those things in your home. Now, if you're really gonna graduate to some real like grown man stuff, I think you should have cleats in your home, just ready to go. No matter what side of the spectrum you're on, I think you should have them. But hey, do you?
I do me.
But all in all, be highly communicative. Talk about the things that you want to experience during the sexual encounter. What you guys want to wear or not wear. Or what you guys want to do, what you enjoy, those kinds of things. So you guys both know you're coming into this pot ready to go, ready to have a pleasurable experience on both parts. 2, I don't think that the onus of pleasure should be on one party or the other. This idea that one person is a pleaser. You both should be pleasers, in my opinion, right? Like one person is not tasked with the idea of pleasing the opposite. It should be a two-way street. I think the mood should be set, but maybe that's just a me thing. But again, that probably will happen during communication. But having some candles, having the room smelling good, or if you guys are gonna have sex, smelling good. Also having a good playlist going, contingent upon the kind of sex you guys are gonna have. You wanna have a hip hop situation going, an R&B situation going.
Online, boom, I really want it right.
A little pro tip, if you guys really wanna have like a sensual encounter, if you get like some instrumentals happening.
I think it's best for me to keep my comments to myself.
And consent, safety, consent, safety. At the end of it all, you want to have a willfully consensual encounter, and you want to have a safe encounter, and you want to have a pleasurable one. So invite me. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I got you. I got you on camera. You on candid camera now.
Enjoy yourselves. Do not think that you have to have sex with anybody to find their love. That's not what sex is for. Sex can happen through love, but sex is not to get someone to love you. And enjoy yourselves. And I will see you guys in episode 35. Peace.